atmosphere here is electric.
Welcome back to Kingsmead. Now we've got discussion time, of course, as we're doing at lunchtime these days, and I've got a couple of people alongside me who are going to be chatting about the topic in particular today. I've got Russel Arnold and I've got Shaun Pollock. Welcome, guys. And we've got Shaun Pollock, Russ, with his little bag of tricks. What do you got here? Shaun, just tell us initially what you brought along.
Just trying to give the viewers a bit of insight into what the discussions have been, the different colour balls, what has been tried, why is it just red and white, why do we just play with those, what is happening with the pink ball. I think just a bit of insight into what's been experimented with, why they go certain routes, and what the possibilities are going forward.
Right, let's just go through the various countries for starters as to what countries use various balls. Russ, Sri Lanka, what do they use at home?
The Kookaburra. That's the one.
But not the pink one.
Not the pink one. I went for the easy, the red one. The red one,
okay.
The white one, obviously.
For the day
That's
games.
what we've been using right through.
ICC, by the way, say that the white Kookaburra is the one that's got to be used for all one-day games, one-day tournaments. So you use the red Kookaburra in Sri Lanka. What about in India?
India, they go with the SG ball.
Yeah.
Which has a harder seam.
The SG is similar to that kind of ball. It's got more of a pronounced seam. It's a little bit harder than what you'd experience as a Kookaburra.
Is it smaller? It seems a little smaller. Feels a little smaller?
Yeah, it generally does feel a little bit better in the hand, and as bowlers you like to have a smaller ball, so that's why the tendency is to try and use that one, but it wears better on their surfaces in particular, and I think the seam stays more pronounced. It almost helps the spinners just a little bit more, whereas this Kookaburra on some of those abrasive surfaces can get very flat and give you nothing to work with. But that's what we play with in South Africa, Australia. And then we've got the Duke, and the Duke is used in England, obviously with their conditions and with the wear and tear, with the moisture that you find in the fields. It probably wears better than anything else. It's also used in the West Indies.
And that's interesting, the West Indies, because it's a different Duke, isn't it?
It's a slightly harder Duke, I've been led to believe.
A harder grade of leather, we understand. It doesn't get
and this is what they wanted to experiment with in Australia, and they're actually contemplating using this here. We tried this form of Duke in the white form before we went to the '99 World Cup.
Right.
And for us, it wasn't great. It was almost in this format. This one's been used in the indoor school quite a bit. And this one went a little bit soft, to be honest. It came out a little bit more like a softball or tennis ball. So it wasn't ideal for our circumstances. So that's why that one wasn't used.
Russ, you want to mention the pink ball?
Yeah, the pink ball, it's very similar to the white one. It plays the same. Now, the difference that we've seen with the seams, the Kookaburra, the seam disappears very fast and gets soft. So that's why you tend to hear the fact that it's a new ball game. Whereas with the Duke and the SG, it stays harder, gives a lot more zip for bowlers right throughout an innings.
And it's got an extra lacquer of paint on it. The white ball has got extra lacquer as well than the red Kookaburra, and that's got even more the pink ball as well, which is why it tends to just move a bit more also. But they experimented, and you mentioned the Dukes. They experimented with the Duke balls in Australia at Sheffield Shield level?
A couple of years ago, leading on to the Ashes, just to see how they go with it. But they're back to Kookaburras, and the recent series in New Zealand and Australia for Sri Lanka were played with the Kookaburra. They experienced the Duke in the West Indies, and it did heaps. The bowlers were in the game.
We've got some footage of that. We won't go to it just yet, but let me just explain that. In fact, we will go to that footage now to have a look at it. This is the last day of the Test match in Antigua. So this is the last day of that, and they're using the Duke ball. Just have a look how this thing hoops around all over the place, Shaun. I mean, this is a great advert, surely, to use the Duke ball.
Yeah, the best thing about the Duke ball is firstly the seams tend to stay harder than the Kookaburra, and what we also found is that at the back end of 30, 40, 50, 60 overs, in England in particular, the ball continued to swing. And I think that's just the assistance that the bowlers using. You didn't have to try and get reverse swing to operate. You could just go with a normal shaping the ball through the air. And that's what Kemar Roach did so brilliantly in this series, is getting that ball to move. I mean, the ball's 35, 40 overs old and still swinging around corners. And I think that's what they want. I think there was a stage where they felt like bat was dominating ball, and what could be done to give the bowlers an extra opportunity to make inroads and be effective.
Okay, so watching this, I mean, there's no doubt that was so exciting, and I was staying up till about 10:30 at night watching this on SuperSport, and I couldn't believe how exciting it was. And I've spoken to quite a few of our crew, and they were trapped watching it also. Admittedly, it's also brilliant to see the West Indies do well against England. I think we all admit that. But the fact that there was so much action, it was just great to watch. And that ball swinging around all over the place, and the slow balls come into place. So what I want to do also is just, if I can just get you to explain, Shaun, the benefits. In fact, let me just state, I mentioned that the white ball, ICC says the white ball is going to be used for all one-day cricket and the T20 stuff and whatever. It's not the case of the red ball. Countries can choose which one.
Different countries can use. As I mentioned, there was a readers that used to be used in England, or else you could choose the Duke. The Duke's used in the West Indies. The SG is used in India. You can decide to use different things. Now, I think what you need to try and work out is almost look at it as though it's a tyre. And, you know, in a car you have different treads and different tyres and obviously work for different functions. If you're going off-road or 4x4, and you probably want to have a different tread compared to what you want to have on the main road. You want to have slicks. Now, if we just go down here and have a look, I'll try and show you, I'll make two examples, impressions of the Kookaburra and the sort of impact it makes in. And
that's a new Kookaburra.
This is a brand new Kookaburra.
Get in here and
if you have a look in there close, it barely leaves a mark on the surface. If we lift it up a little bit, you might be able to see there.
Yep.
There's the tread over there.
Yep.
There's hardly anything. Whereas we go for an SG or Duke,
which is much older there.
Which have got, it's much older, and it's also got more of a seam, pronounced seam. You can see how it makes a much bigger tread, and it has a bigger difference over here. So that's the advantage of that, and also for the spinners it's more pronounced, so you're going to get more turn. So basically what it does is it gives the bowlers more to work with. The only reason why they've gone with it in other countries is because this one tends to wear better in Australia and South Africa because the surfaces are harder. So it's more like a tarmac, whereas overseas it might be more like a dirt road, and these ones can last longer.
I understand that the Duke's balls, they're now trying to, because of the success in the West Indies, I've realised it can be used on the harder surfaces. They're now trying to get something organised for the Southern Hemisphere as well. So there's a couple of things. The most important thing, I think, is the depressing situation for us. Russell, that it's a cake for us, but clearly it wasn't. So that's disappointing.
Yes, and immediately he has a couple of things to attend to make sure that you get us some naan with that tomorrow, and also wash your socks.
Okay, let's keep talking sense here. We're doing quite well at this stage.
Right, so the Duke ball, I mean, so what's the stop? What's the process? Would you, as your former captain of South Africa, if you're the captain now and you suddenly think, okay, I think these Duke balls are the way to go, what would that process be?
Well, I don't think it would be a problem at all if you could convince your board that you want to use the Duke ball. It's not a problem. They get tennis balls, they use different ones, golf balls. Everyone uses a different bit of equipment. So that's not a problem. You have to give clearance to the team, and obviously Sri Lanka would have to have prepared with regards to the Duke ball.
And also with the wickets, do you think the amount of grass that you leave on the wickets will have to change, and how you prepare?
It might dictate to how much movement you get with them. But I suppose those are things that need to be experimented with before you just implement them. And then obviously there's the colour options. We can discuss that as well about as to what happened.
Briefly we can, yep.
We have, so what happens is there was an experiment. We wanted to get different colour ball because we wanted to be able to play at night. The problem they had with the white ball starts off brilliantly, but it discolours. It gets down to a cream base, and that comes very difficult to watch. That's why it used to be changed after 34 overs. That's why when you play one-day internationals, you use two of these because of the discoloration. They don't want to be changing the ball. So that's why the white didn't work. And if you wanted to play test matches at night, it wasn't going to do the job.
You're dressed in white as well.
Yes. So that wasn't going to help. The yellow ball, they tried with the yellow and orange or pink. They thought these could be the options. The yellow, that one didn't really work so well with the grass. It also went discoloured. It wasn't a great option. This is used with the Hong Kong Sixers, so we discard that one. They went down to these two options. These were the options that they thought were best. The orange was probably the best one because you picked it up clearer than anything else. But the problem that we had was it created a comet. So when the players were watching square of the wicket and the ball was hit, the effect that they would have is they wouldn't see a round cricket ball. What they'd see is they'd see that. So that would be like a comet coming at you with a bit of a tail on it, and that wasn't ideal. They didn't need to. They didn't want that. They wanted just to be able to see the Kookaburra. So unfortunately, the orange was tried and tested in Australia. That was thrown out the window. So they went down to the pink. This was the best. The reason why is because when it wore, you can see there that although it's worn down in that side, you can still pick it up clearly. You can still see the seam position. So that gave it longevity. That means it could last 80 overs. Initially what they did, pink with a white seam. And then the player said, no, hold on. We're very intense. We look at different things that we need to do. We need to see the detail. They look for how much the ball spins, how much the seam position to try and help it swing. They need to be able to identify and have a contrast between seam and the leather, that is. What they did is they changed it from a white seam to a green seam, similar to what you get on the white ball. So now you can see the seam position, you can see the ball spinning through the air, you can see the different variations, and gives them more chance. So this is the ball that is now played in day-night test matches. We haven't seen much of it in South Africa. And this was the ball that actually suggested that they played here in Durban, because
an issue yesterday.
Bad light, you continue to play, the lights come on, you still continue in the game. Lasts for the full 80 overs, 90 overs.
It was an issue yesterday, of course, and then it's a situation now where the bad light is going to come into play probably the next couple of days. The forecast isn't great, so it's now making a lot of sense to actually look at that here with the lights on, and obviously the players are going to be happy with that, because it's something that should be looked at. Can I just have a quick question to you guys? There's a couple of, one question is, what about the visiting, this is from Bruce, he says, what about the visiting captain of the touring side having the choice of the ball?
Used to happen in England. What it used to is before the toss, you'd have another toss, you'd flick it up, and they would decide, okay, on this test match, we're either going to play with readers or dukes. For example, Pakistan felt like the reader ball reversed more, so whenever they won the toss, they played that test match with a reader, because they felt that they were more effective as a team with that reader. And England, when they won the toss, they always liked to play with the duke. So it used to happen, probably doesn't happen now. I think just preparation-wise, they feel that they need to prepare for 5 or 6 days before, so that's why that was thrown out the window.
That's a tweet. Tony is also agreeing with you. He's saying that the pink ball should be used, basically, because in Durban it's normally an hour off early. And Shaun says, and it's not Shaun Pollock, but Shaun says the Duke ball provides more balance between bat and ball. Looking at attendance around the world, we need to provide entertainment, and that's the point that I was making before about the stuff in the West Indies, because the negatives of the, just quickly, the negatives of the Kookaburra ball are?
They get soft, and within
the red one in particular,
the red one in particular, yep. it gets softer and it doesn't wear as well. So by 30, 40 overs, sometimes it can be really flat. Sometimes even the stitching in the subcontinent conditions gets worn away in particular.
Doesn't swing.
That's why I think the reason too, the bats got so much better. It was almost like, okay, well, what are you doing for the bowlers? We're going with the same ball we've been using for the last 60, 70 years. Why aren't you going to change that? And that's why there's been thoughts into give the bowlers more of a chance, maybe a more pronounced seam, one that can swing through the air and nip off the seam and give them extra abilities to pick up wickets.
Final question from you, very quickly. Which one would you prefer to use?
I'm tending to like the Duke one.
The Duke? Shaun, what about you?
I love the Duke in England. I'm not too sure how it's going to go here.
Okay, we had quite a few tweets saying that the Duke should definitely be used. So thanks for those people that certainly sent some tweets as well. So that's much appreciated. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and we've given you an update on that. Shaun's going to keep his store open for a little bit longer. In the meantime, we're going back to Pommy.